This is an amazing accomplishment. Chuck used to come into my office. I have an office down in Gastown. Ever since I quit, Monday through Friday radio, I still dabble in it. But where I first met Chuck, this is something no one knows, I was engaged to a girl in Victoria, and I used to spend my weekends over there and tape the shows, and they'd say, how can you be here and there? Anyway, you can get away with murder that way. But anyway, she said, I want you to meet her girlfriend, and we're going over to see who her date is and someone she was going with. So we go over to Check TV, it was brand new, and who was doing everything except the windows? Chuck Davis. That's where I first met him, 1956. Throughout the years here in Vancouver, we'd get together, a group of media people, and we go to the On. Some of you here in the room, you would remember that, Cam. Yeah, and you applaud too. But Chuck was the kind of guy, we'd sit there, we'd be ordering our food, and he'd say to the waiter, "Would you come here a minute? Where did Pierre Trudeau sit when he was coming here all the time?" He'd want to know that, and what would he order? I mean, it was just Mr. Curiosity. And when I was putting our book together called Backstage Vancouver, which is the history of entertainment, Chuck said to me, "I got an idea for your book." He said, "Here's one," and he loved odd things, unique things. He said, "Here's a story. Imagine they're building the PNE. Now it's 100 years ago, but this was Chuck talking to me before the book came out, about 5 years ago, I guess now. He said there was a carpenter out there called William H. Pratt. And he would be a carpenter building by day. At night he'd go down to one of the theaters on Hastings and act. This is what his dream was, his passion. So when they finished building the PNE, he packed it up and moved to Hollywood and changed his name from William H. Pratt to Boris Karloff. That's the truth, folks. Anyway, it was things like that that intrigued Chuck. It didn't matter what conversation you're in, he'd get around to something unique and unusual. Just one thing I wanted to mention. You may not know this of me, but I love heritage, and this town is important to me too. Excuse me, and that's why we did the book on the entertainment side of it. Chuck would come in to my office and we'd sit down, particularly one day after Jack Cullen, who some of you may not know, but he was an incredible disc jockey, a character, and he recorded everybody you could think of in interviews. He had a vast collection. And he said, "What's going to happen to all that?" So Alma, his widow, Jack Cullen's widow, called me and said, "One of you and Carol would come out and help me." So we went out there, and Jack had sold the entire record collection to CKNW years before, but he was the caretaker until he died. So that was gone. But he had a lot of other things, including 1,500 interviews. Duke Ellington, Count Basie, name them all, Del Richards. But no, he had all these incredible interviews with every performer you can think of. And I said, "Alma, do the kids want this? And this is a lesson." They said, "No." And I said, "But why?" She said, "It's an interesting thing. They want little things that their dad had, but they don't want much because they didn't experience these people." You know what I'm saying? So I said, "Well, Alma, what are you going to do?" She said, "I'm throwing them out. I've got to clean the house up." And I said, "No." I said, "If you don't mind, I'm going to take them and preserve them." So I had them all, I hired a truck, had them all, they were all reel-to-reel tapes, folks. And a lot of them that kind of tape starts to turn to muck after a lot of years. So I took them all down to my office, and over a period of 2.5 years, I had them all digitized. So now I have a cross-index digitized of every one of Jack Cullen's interviews. A major part of the history here. Yeah. Tell you that for my glory, but then I thought, what the heck, and I've got about 2,800 too, the Elvises, the Beatles and all that, and I transferred all of them. So I've got all of this now cross-indexed and done. And it used to be a thing that Chuck said, we've got to protect this. And I'll tell you what interested me. Some of the radio stations I work with, and there's people in the audience like Lynn McNamara and Cam, they come in, the corporations, and I'm not going into a speech here, but they come in and say, "Okay, we bought this joint, take all those photos and all that tape and throw them in the dumpster." You think I'm kidding? You don't know how many of us have rescued this stuff, including Cam. And that's not right. So I'm on his page. Congratulations, Chuck.
Now I'd like to call on another old friend of Chuck's, Mr. Dal Richards.